those noodles are chunky. Nothing is going to waste. If it's too sticky, it will be really hard to work. I do want it to have some salt level. This is probably way more noodles than I need, but whatever. Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you're new here, I'm Catherine, the Aerogarden homesteader, and today I am going to actually make some pasta. Again, this will be the third try. The first try was way too dry. I had to try to add water to the dough. Not fun. The second try was, well, way too wet because I overcompensated. So hopefully third time's a charm. Now, I made the mistake of not recording the first time, so I can't even, that one turned out so well. The second one, I recorded it and it was just a big flop because it stuck to everything. I mean, I could put some footage up if you really want to see the hilarity and it's sticking to everything, but... So, I'm going to try weighing things this time. I think I've read in several places that it's about 100 grams of flour to 1 egg. So, we're testing that today. I am making chicken soup. I made a bunch of stock recently, and rather than go through and can it, I thought, why not use some of it up while I have everything out? So, I was canning chicken stew base or chicken soup base, and I have leftover vegetables from that. I have leftover stock. So, I have the chicken that came out of the, the making the stock. So, nothing is going to waste. I am going to use it all up, and I thought, what better way than to make some homemade noodles to go with it. I'm going to get some eggs washed. I have 200 grams of flour, about a quarter teaspoon of salt, and 2 eggs. That'll just get my base ingredients for the pasta. There's that. Dry my hands. Everything is wet. My kitchen is a disaster. So I'm just going to give this a quick mix. Fork does not make a very good well. Anyways. Okay. I get these beaten up, and I'm going to slowly incorporate the flour until I get a dough. I have not figured out what this dough is supposed to feel like, so I can never tell if I have added too much or not enough flour. So that's why I'm hoping that this time I will figure it out. Now the other thing I noticed is, I think if you're using all-purpose flour, you want to knead until it gets smooth, but you don't want to over-knead it because it develops too much gluten and the dough springs back. So the first batch I made, I kneaded it for the required 10 minutes, and not realizing that that recipe actually was using semolina, was using bread flour, which I think can handle being kneaded a bit more. So yeah, the dough sprang back a little bit. So the second time I kneaded it just until it came together, and well, it was sticky because it was sticky. I'm probably doing this all wrong. That still feels a little sticky, but I got lots of dry stuff in the bottom. I might actually need a tiny bit of water, and one of the recipes I was following did call for a little bit of olive oil, but it might be a little too late for that. Okay, I'm going to get a tiny splash of water and hope I don't mess this up. Okay, so I put in a tiny splash on the bottom, hoping to bring all this together. That is sticky. Okay, let's get this turned out. Now the dough will need to rest. I've seen various things. One called for 40 minutes, 45 minutes, another called for an hour. Just rest it. I'll try to knead this together. I think I should have done 300 grams. It seems like it makes a more reasonable amount for kneading. Oh well. Okay, I'm going to scrape this back in the bowl, and I'm going to put in a tiny little splash of water. And bring it together, and then add it to that. Okay, that was probably too much water. So it is my understanding that pasta made with water can be dehydrated and left at room temperature. The pasta made with egg should be either cooked and consumed or frozen. It can be kept in the refrigerator a short amount of time, but I don't know. Maybe your mileage has varied or you've heard something else. I mean, the internet has lots of falsehoods on it. So I have no idea. Okay, so this is coming together. It is slightly sticky. So I'm not going to put the rest of that in, but I might need to clean up my hands and get a tiny bit of flour. I hate doing the back and forth thing because it's not very good for the proportions, but I feel like I'm still learning. So if it's too sticky, it will be really hard to work, and it's not smooth at all. Okay, so I'm going to give this a quick cleanup and my hands, and I'm going to get a tiny bit of flour and see if I can work in a little bit. I'd rather work in flour than try to work in water, honestly, because that was a pain. Okay, washed and dried, and put down just a tiny bit of flour and work that in and see how that goes. Definitely do not want sticky this time, and it is definitely sticky. So let's see where we're at. Okay, well, it's a little bit better. It's still slightly sticky, so I'm going to add just a tiny bit more. A little bit of flour will get incorporated while I am rolling it out. I will be rolling this out by hand because I do not have a pasta maker, pasta machine, pasta roller, pasta accessory. Don't have any of that. That's looking a lot better. I'm going to get the rest of the exterior flour worked in and see how it is. Okay, it's definitely soft. It still has a slight stickiness to it, so I'm going to add a little bit more. I think it needs to be soft but not sticky, because the first time I made it, it was so firm it was hard to work. I would have pulled the camera out and recorded it, but I just wasn't feeling good. I sounded like a frog. I don't even know why I had the energy to make it when I did. Okay, so it's still, well, maybe it's fine. It doesn't feel as sticky. I'm going to put just a tiny bit more in. It's not going to hurt. And then call it done. Okay, that feels a lot better. It's still soft, it's supple. Yeah, there is a very tiny tackiness to it. So I hope that those descriptions help you in your pursuit of pasta. Yeah, there we go. Okay, that feels a lot better. It's not as hard as it was the first time, or as soft and sticky as it was the second time. So I'm going to get this wrapped up. I'm going to let it sit for, I'm probably going to let it sit for an hour, honestly. It might even sit for a little bit longer, but yeah, that seemed to work out pretty good. So I'm kind of pleased with that. Let's see how it rolls out. Okay, it is time to make the soup. So I have some celery, onions, carrots. These are just left over from another project that I had already cut up. So I'm just going to put these in, and I will allow this to simmer until these are tender. You can put in any vegetable you want. This is basically, it's your soup, you make it your way. I am going to keep mine relatively simple. What is this, the Divinity? Trinity? Anyways, I am just putting in these three things, and that's it. I thought about putting in potato, but then I decided against it, because number one, I'm not a huge fan of potato in my soup, and number two, I just didn't feel like putting it in. I'm going to be putting in noodles, and lots of them, so that is what's going in my soup. Now, I will taste this later for salt, but I am going to put in just a tiny touch of pepper, just to give it a little pepper, and then I am going to put in some, well, I'll just throw that on the floor. I have some powdered tomato sauce. Yeah, freeze-dried tomato sauce. So I'm going to put a little bit of that in. I like one of two ways for my soup. I either like to put in like V8, which I never have. That's something I did as a kid. I just put in tomato juice or whatever, tomato sauce, just to give it that tomato flavor. Or I like to have a creamy based one. So it just kind of depends. Get that off the ladle. There we go. So it doesn't take a lot, but I do want a little bit of that tomato flavor in there. Okay, I'm going to go with that. Okay, I will have the salt out because I know I will need it soon. Let's get this simmering and cooking. I do have the chicken. I did break it down into smaller pieces, but this is picked off from the wing meat. I will put this in right near the end. This literally just needs to heat up, and that is it. It does not need to be cooked. It is already overcooked. Okay, I'm going to move you over. So those are the last two components there. Definitely will need salt. I just don't know how much. And I need to roll out the noodles. Now I suspect that this is way more pasta than I need for this soup recipe. So I might just cut up enough to do the noodles for the soup with, and then I want to cut up some just as long noodles that I can use with, I've got that pesto in the freezer still. It's been doing well. I just kind of thaw a little bit at a time and put it on whatever I need. That might be more than I can roll in this small area. I'm going to cover the rest. Okay, let's roll a smaller amount. This is not very much counter space at all. And I definitely want to make sure I am using a good amount of flour, but not a ton. And I will be rolling this out relatively thin, cutting it up into small pieces, and letting it to dry. That's actually kind of important, is to let it dry a little bit before putting it in to cook. Now, I may have overkneaded it. This has been resting for more than an hour. It's probably been resting for 2 or 3. And you can see it's kind of springing back on me, so I probably overkneaded it. I probably need to go and get some, I wonder if I put vital wheat gluten in, if that would help. I don't know. I tried looking that up, and I couldn't figure it out. What I should probably do is go to Winco, pick up a little bit of pasta flour from the bulk bins, and make a batch with that, so I know what it's all supposed to feel like. And then once I've got that straightened out in my head, kind of like tortillas, now that I know what the dough is supposed to feel like, no problem. But I don't know what the pasta dough is supposed to feel like. What on earth is that little... I'm just going to pick that out. I don't know what it was, but... Alright. So, yeah, I will just fight with the dough. It will eventually get to where I need it. It will just take time. Okay, well, it's not square or anything, but I don't care. I'm going to be cutting these into smaller pieces. Don't know if I should roll it and cut it or just go for it. Pizza cutter would probably work a lot better. Okay, now if I was going for a stuffed pasta, which I have done, I did do a tortellini, I would probably make this thinner. I don't know if I want that little piece. I'm going to add that to the other one. Okay, so then I just have to figure out what size I want. I'm going to go with a longer, something like that. That one got tiny. Okay, so I'm going to toss these in a little bit of flour. Those ones are longer. Wow. I am inconsistent. But anyways, I'm going to get these kind of coated in a little bit of flour because they are going to be sticky on their cut ends, and I'm going to let them dry a little bit. And then I can put them in the pot. So I don't know if I should cut some of these. Well, let's go with rustic, different sizes. It doesn't matter. So, okay, I'm going to just get these off the counter. Come on. If you let it stick to the counter a little bit, it does help when you're rolling it out because then it doesn't snap back as much, but it is a little tedious getting it off the counter. I think that might be enough for the soup. What do you think? Should I make more for the soup? Alright, well, we're going to go for noodle-filled soup. So, I don't know if that will stick into it very well, but let's just do these one strip at a time. These are definitely a little thicker. Okay, well, I guess if I want some pesto pasta, I will need to make some more, but that's fine. It's always a fun thing. Put those there, mix those together. Okay, so what I need to do is taste the soup and see. I'm sure it needs some salt. I didn't salt the original broth. I didn't salt anything else. I mean, the pasta has a tiny amount of salt in it, but that's not going to be enough. Okay, those look good. Spread them out a little bit. Okay, so I got some small ones, got some big ones, got all kinds of shapes. So, should be some extra slurpy fun there. Okay, now I'm going to let this dry for probably a good 20 minutes. Probably doesn't need that long, but I don't want to cook the noodles and then have the soup sit around. It's not quite dinner time yet. I probably rolled these out just a little early, but that's fine. But I don't want them sitting in hot broth just swelling up and getting all mushy, so I shall wait until it is almost dinner time, because these should only need maybe, what, like 5 minutes? Not even. They are thick, both this way and this way, so it will need time to cook, but fresh pasta doesn't take that long. And the extra flour that is on the pasta will help thicken the soup up a little bit. Okay, well, this is going to be screaming hot, but I am going to give it a little taste. Now, it does look like the tomato didn't fully hydrate. It's kind of like a powder in the bottom, so I will have to keep an eye on that. This is a clean spoon. Yeah, it still kind of has that. Oh well, maybe I should have just put in tomato juice, but I didn't want to dilute my stock, so we will give this a little taste. That's really good. It is missing salt, so I don't know how much to put in here. Let's not take that off. Probably doesn't need a ton, but I do want it to have some salt level. I am not going to check the doneness of the vegetables. I doubt they're done yet, and they still have some cooking time. I will just let this simmer away. Okay. Nice thing about using a ladle. There we go. We'll use the same spoon again. That's better, but I think I need more salt. Salt is such a hard thing to figure out for me, because I would not have salted this under normal circumstances. I just probably would have put in a little pinch and called it done and not tasted it at all and just accepted that's how it tastes. But let's try and get the salt level in the right spot. Yeah, that's definitely better. Definitely a lot better. I think it can handle a little more pepper. And I think I will put in a bit more salt, because I think I'm still not there yet, but it is definitely better. Okay, let's see how that is. Now, I do believe the pasta will sort of suck up some of the salt. You know, it's like pasta can handle salt, so. Oh yeah, oh yeah. That was it. That was it. Oh, that's really good. That reminds me of my childhood. With the tomato base. I have not made a tomato-based chicken soup in a long time. Okay, I'm going to call that good. I'm going to let this simmer away for probably another 10-15 minutes, and then hopefully by then everything will be cooked and I can just throw everything in, cook it a little bit longer, and have some dinner. I will be enjoying this with some sourdough, so yum yum. Okay, I brought the soup back up to a boil because I wanted to get the noodles in and start them cooking. This is probably way more noodles than I need, but whatever. Okay, so once the noodles are cooked, I will put in the chicken and dish it up. Shouldn't take more than 3 to 5 minutes. And this is how the soup turned out. It is really good. Those noodles are chunky. I highly recommend this though. The homemade noodles are so good in this soup. This is just a very simple soup, but it is really good. Anyways, I hope you found this video useful. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'll have some videos up at the end that you might enjoy, and I will see you next time on the Aerogarden Homestead.